Richards trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
Now you're gonna get it, brother.
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Street Bullies. My name is Derek. We are Johnless, but we've got the Matts. Matt Hoagland, get off your phone and help us out here.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday night.
And Matt Casey.
2 Matts for the price of 1. It's Christmas early, folks.
Oh boy.
Boy, do I feel outnumbered. But in terms of outnumbered as well, speaking of, how about them birds? Hoagie? No, you don't want to talk about it?
Sip your chai tea.
You don't want to talk about it? You
Little
don't want to talk about it at all?
bitch.
Are you sure?
As like a pretty like unbiased, like, you know, I'll root for the Eagles, but I'm not like a huge Eagles fan by any stretch of the imagination. That was a great ass woman. Now look,
Yeah.
I know Philadelphia too, right?
Yeah, in Philly in a dismal rain. But
Man.
hey, you guys go head to head next week though, which was fun.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah,
So listen,
we'll
that's
talk
where
next
the
Sunday.
crap talking stops, because I don't
That's
want
where
to
the
have
bets
to eat
begin,
more words.
baby.
That is too. Maybe we'll make things interesting here by the end of the episode. You want to think about some bets,
Ooh.
Hoagie?
Oh, you're better on the bets. I'll do some acceptance.
It's definitely not going to be money involved because I'm broke. But anyways, we want to get into some Flyers talk here after the week that was. We'll talk about a couple games the Flyers had this week, what happened. But we also want to talk about the rivalry between the Pens and the Flyers as well. That being revisited, as well as this upcoming Monday night against the Pens. We've got some shootout talk as well, something that the Flyers have been historically bad at, but haven't been that bad recently, which is kind of nice. So, Matt Casey looks like he's looking something up here.
You know what? I'm just retweeting out the link. So I'm just trying to be a team player, just like we were good team players last night. So
Torts would be proud.
At least you actually go on X and repost it.
well,
Whereas our missing counterpart doesn't even have his account anymore.
Right.
Well, my issue is like I was on Twitter, not to like totally derail it. I was on Twitter so much just on my phone between like Flyer stuff and University of Miami stuff. Like it was just like nuts. It was like I'd be on my couch. My kids are like trying to like, Daddy, play soccer with us. And I'm like, shut up. I'm on Twitter. And
It's trade deadline day.
and so I finally deleted it from my phone. And so I'm like never on Twitter anymore. Like I have to be in front of a computer, which, you know, it's not unreasonable for me to be in front of a computer, but it's like a concentrated effort now.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to start doing that too. I constantly find myself on my phone when my kids are around, and I'm like, I can't keep doing that. But before we get too serious, let's talk about some fun stuff.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the week that was. The Flyers had 3 games this week and 1-1-1.
Killing it.
That seems pretty mediocre.
Tell me you're in a rebuild. Tell me you're in a rebuild.
Yeah, the what did I say? The quintessential model for mediocrity here.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I think you have the Carolina game, which I think is probably the most we've gotten outplayed in a while, and I'm including that Rangers game in that too, where we got outplayed. And Hoagie and I met each other for the first time in person. It was wild. And for like 5 minutes, my kids were like, "We're hungry again." I was like, Hoagie, I gotta go, man.
Taking you to get a sandwich. Get it?
But that Carolina game was tough to watch. I mean, it's just like they outflyered us in a huge way. They are playing the style of game that we play, but they do it at a level that is superior than ours. And it was tough even just to get into the zone. So that was tough to watch. But then then you have the Devils and a mighty comeback, and then the Pens, which is a gutsy win, even though technically we could have gotten that one in regulation. So
yeah,
it's mediocrity, but you know what? Shit, it's entertaining.
Right. Hoagie, how tough is it for you to watch this team when the other team has their goalie pulled? Like, specifically, we'll talk about the Pens game, like 20 seconds left. And it's all like, to me, at least, it's like a backbreaker.
Right. It definitely is. Like, I watched the game last night. I only caught like the third period and the rest of the game. And I was just like, oh, we have a lead. We're doing something. And that just took the wind out of you. Like, God damn, we just put all this work in to take the lead for the first time, like coming from behind, and then that just kind of kills you. But I mean, it was exciting hockey to still watch because they're being relevant and they're not just quitting on games. We've been speaking about that since last year, that they don't quit on games. I mean, when they're getting blown out, yeah, they still are kind of quitting on it, but like they're still working and going on with the rest of the game.
Well, let's like just to do like a apples to apples comparison. Like, look at where we were last year. Yeah, we were competitive in games, but at this point last year we were game 8 into a 10-game losing streak, and like we were like, God, I hope there's only one of these this year because we had 3 the year before. So
right,
I think you hit the term relevancy, and I think we're there. It's scary though, because you are basically one really good week away of being second place to the Rangers in this division, or you're one really bad week away from being actually pretty close to Columbus, which like Columbus isn't that far off when you look at the standings. The Rangers are far up, but everybody else is kind of in the pack, and then Columbus is only like 4 or 5 points below.
So that begs an even more interesting question, and I think a topic that we might be able to table for another night. But does that scare you at all? Like, if we have one of those weeks where let's say 3 games, we win all 3 and we're second in the Metro, does it scare you from like a GM's mindset where Briere looks at that and says, okay, we're playing with fire now, like maybe we can turn this into something?
So you're saying if we have a good week?
If we have a good week and it puts us, let's say, again, hypothetically, in second place in the Metro this far into the season, do you think, I mean, Briere has come out and said essentially they're open for business, but like, is it concerning probably isn't the word for it. Like, is it interesting enough that you'd be like, I wonder if Briere's thinking about making a push?
It's just not what the blueprint has been. It is, and I think in a weird way, it's a good problem to have because you're still quote unquote in rebuild, but you have guys that are overachieving. And I think, the only person it should be scary for is Danny Briere and his staff. I know I'm not involved in, you see these Twitter debates and, the game last night, it's like, oh, how do you rebuild without and then win these games? It's like, shut up. You want players that want to lose? Like, are you insane?
You can't lose every single game in the season. Like, that's just ridiculous.
And losing doesn't guarantee you that first overall pick. There's still a lottery to go through.
You get better odds, but like you've seen it. How many times does the worst team in the league actually get the first round pick? Or the first overall pick, sorry.
Right.
So I don't know. It doesn't scare me, man. I want, I said it. Hoagie and I were on the same page this summer. Like, I think we're going to be competitive in March. I do. I don't know if we'll be a playoff team, and if we are, hey, more power to us. But like, I think this team is a competitive team. Beyond that, I'm not making any promises, though.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that, Hoagie?
I mean, there's been this conversation for the past couple of weeks. Like, do we make a push? Do we become buyers instead of sellers at the trade deadline? What are we doing here? And I think Briere's come out and said just been like, we'll see where we are. If we're a couple points for wild card and we're not really in the mix, we're not going to do much. But they're not going to go out and just make a big splash for a possible playoff push, which I think is them still sticking to what Casey said, the blueprint of how they are making this rebuild happen. And they did say the players will determine the timeline of this rebuild. But they're in what Casey says, we consider this year 2 of the rebuild. To the Flyers, it's year 1. But
I consider it year 3.
there you
I'm
go.
on year 3 right
Yeah, but
Time flies when you're having fun, right, boys?
but in their first year of quote unquote the rebuild, they're not just going to be just throw everything to the wayside and be like, hey, we're actually kind of good. Let's try to make this, because that was the mistakes of the Hextall and the Fletcher eras of
just attempting the retooling.
The mediocrity. Yeah, exactly.
What about you, Derek? Does it scare you?
Me, no. Like, I mean, it should, like, to your point, it should scare Briere and his
Does
crew.
it keep you up at night? Or is that no, or is that a kid?
Probably the kid. It's the kid, yeah. But like, it's again, I believe to your point here as well. Like, it's a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it is of the utmost importance to stick to the plan, because this is not like the ultimate end goal here, which I would only assume is to create a perennial contender. What the Flyers used to be, getting back to those ways, mortgaging that for just 1 year of like, oh man, we're pretty hot right now, we should capitalize on that. Like, would a Stanley Cup be nice? Oh my God, yeah. But like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I'd rather make a run at the Stanley Cup for like 10 years than have just one and then fade back into mediocrity.
Yep.
But it's like, I'd rather, it's a lottery ticket. I'd rather have 7 of them than 1. You know what I mean?
One thing sort of parlaying off this, you guys remember like I don't know, it was like the first week or 2 of the season when we beat on Edmonton pretty well. And in the post-game conference that we talked about, they were talking to Cam Atkinson, and whoever the hell the ESPN announcer was like, oh, like, what would you think about being traded to Edmonton at the trade deadline? It's like, guy just came back from a year off, like a neck surgery, like back surgery and stuff like that. Now it's like Edmonton's 14th in the league. Like, you freaking bozo! Like, talking about, I want to pull that clip and just have it keep churning, and that stuff that doesn't age well.
Like, do I want to be an Oiler or a Flyer?
It wasn't even that. It was just the premise of it was week 1 or 2 of the season, and we're already talking about playoffs. Also, Cam Atkinson's on a 2-year deal. There's no promise that we're going to ship him out at this trade deadline. Like,
not to mention where Edmonton's at right now. Like, come on. Exactly. You're going to talk about, like, basically you're going from here to here,
Right. But I also
one team, the potential's here.
I also want to point out the standings as well, because right now we're tied for, like, 3rd in the Metro with 26 with 2 other teams. So the Capitals technically have the 3rd spot in the Metro. And then the wild card goes 28, 26, 26, 25, 24, which is Maple Leafs, Islanders, Flyers, Lightning, and Penguins.
Company we're not used to being in.
Right. Like, I think this wild card could just be a full-on rush throughout the season, depending on who's doing well and who's doing not, and who's sucking. But I mean, I think the Leafs and the Lightning are really the only ones that you should be afraid of, honestly, because
they're the ones too that'll be making moves at the deadline, like them, the Caps too, the Pens. Those teams are going to be making moves because the Pens are running out of time. Their window is getting smaller by the year, and they're going to want to try to
multi-year deals.
Yeah, I mean that window just keeps getting smaller and smaller. Like, great contract extension on Letang, dumbasses. We'll get into that a little bit later. My disdain for him, but you're right. Like, it's interesting because there are the teams that are in the chase with the Flyers right now, but they're the ones that it sounds kind of bad. They're meant to be there. The Flyers weren't meant to be there.
Expected to be there.
Expected. The best way to put it. Exactly. Yeah. The Flyers weren't expected to be there. And great. I'm happy that they are. However, come trade deadline time, I have a feeling that we're really going to start to see those teams separate themselves from the pack. And that's going to be those teams are going to be the teams that are going to be making the push to get the players. And the Flyers are going to be one of the teams that are selling those players.
Well, honestly, I think just those wildcard teams right there are just going to be your wildcard teams, because the guys that are in the top 3 of the Atlantic and the Metro, they're pretty much solidified, honestly, at least the top 2, because they've just been running away with their seasons.
Yeah, I mean, you have Boston and New York, and then you have everybody else. And
with the
keeps going.
You have the Panthers as well.
Got it.
That are up there.
But, as I said, like, it's still relatively early in the season. I mean, I know everybody does the American Thanksgiving comparison and, blah, blah, blah. But, I think you're just looking at it 1 week at a time. It's like, all right, we just went through this or we're in the midst of this Metro gauntlet where we've gone 3-3-1 with one more game to go. Again, textbook mediocrity, amazing. And but it's made it does kind of show where you are. And right now, like, even though we beat Carolina one time, we've lost to them twice. Even though, we put up somewhat of a fight against the Rangers, they basically kicked our ass. And that was the worst game I've seen the Flyers play in a long time. So, I don't think anybody's has a delusion, at least they shouldn't, that this is a contending team. What it is a wild card contending team.
Right.
It's a promising team for the future.
Which is progress. That's progress.
Yeah, right.
Folks.
And that's what you want to see in a rebuild. 100% agree.
If they miss the wild card by a couple points, that's a great season to me, because we can look back and say, oh, that team was missing a Michkov, was missing a Gauthier, like that players that can slide in and help us actually gain those points in the standings to make us those contenders. So it's just promising at this point.
Lest we not forget too, let's be honest. I mean, just let's say they arrive the same year, Michkov and Gauthier. That's not going to solve all of our problems. It will take them some time to acclimate themselves to the NHL. So this isn't just a, hey, 2 more years, they're here, we're fine. No, it's going to take a little bit longer, which, hey, that's fine. But that's the time when it's like, okay, time to start putting our foot on the gas. Let's see what we can do here. Build around these guys, shelter them with some veterans that can help them, take some minutes if need be, if they're struggling, yada, yada, yada. The whole ordeal.
Well, they're also talent that's going to draw talent as well.
Right.
Especially the likes of like Cutter Gauthier, who's playing at BC with just first round NHL players right now. Like
Or Massimo Rizzo leading the NCAA in assists, baby.
Oh boy.
Jim's boy.
that big. Who did we get him for? Which team was
it I can't even remember. Who cares at this point?
Yeah, it was such a small one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I mean, I think that let's kind of flip gears here real quick too, because we talked about the week that was, but the latest game here, the Pens game, we are like the rivalry never died. Let's get that out of the way here. It never died. However, it's tough to call something a rivalry when it's one-sided. It is consistently one-sided. And what we saw Saturday night was a back-and-forth battle that we are so used to when these two teams were contenders, and then taking it down to a shootout, along with some nasty play, let's be honest here. I think we saw this rivalry really pick up, because I think now the Pens may be somewhat closer to the level of the Flyers, not because the Flyers played up to them, but because the Pens are starting to slip.
I think you saw last night, and I watched that game from start to finish, and it was a very entertaining game. I could not believe that we were ever down to that team. Their first 2 goals were like pure luck, kind of hot garbage, and what, it happens. You get bounces, everybody gets them, but I thought we outplayed them for 55 of the 60 minutes of that game, and they just got a little bit of luck on there. And it is just so clear. It's just tough for us to score. And, when Tippett had 2 breakaways, 2 shifts in a row, the first one, it didn't happen. I was like, oh, there was our chance. And then, I immediately go to the worst case scenario. Oh, we're going to get shut out. We're never going to score again. We haven't. and then he scores on the next shift. You finally see Forster, get a clean angle and get that highly touted shot of his past. What's his name? Jari. Lots. I don't know if anybody really picked it. Yes, it was a shorthanded goal, but this is going to parlay into my next point. He just basically outlasted and just made Malkin flop on the ice like a wounded seal. He was like, he was so exhausted, and made a good move. But you're right. It is 2 teams. Like the Flyers, we think, and I think it shows, are on an upward trajectory. The Pens are slowly they're in a hot air balloon, and they're just slowly
they're losing strings.
The ascent has begun.
Yeah.
And it's so clear from they have one really, really great line. They have a phenomenal line of Malkin, Gensel, Crosby, Letang, and who was the other defenseman?
Carlson.
Like that's phenomenal. Who do
Right.
they have after that? Who do they have in the third line? Who like
Brian Rust?
They were just
Rust. Yeah.
they're like throwing those guys on for 2 minutes at a time on the power play, which did actually look pretty good. And it's mind-boggling that they can't score there. But
Against the Flyers penalty kill, though, like let's be honest.
Right. So I think the Flyers looked just a foot better than the Penguins did, but the score didn't show that. So I'm really interested to see what happens tomorrow night, because you're right, there was some nasty shit going on and with some of that on both ends.
Oh yeah,
all over the place.
Absolutely. Hoagie, let's talk about the goals here. I want to nail down specifically a couple of the breakaways. So Casey brought up two of the breakaways for Tippett. The first one, obviously, he got stoned on when it comes to Jari, whatever. He went back to his forehand. Second one, though, kind of made that adjustment. You see him like, okay, like I went forehand last time. He stuck with the backhand and snuck it past him. I mean, you knew it had to happen on that second breakaway. Am I wrong?
No. No, you're not wrong. I mean, Tippett's not typically a breakaway type of guy. He's usually just a sniper. But I mean, I'll be honest, I can't really remember the play right now because I barely watched it.
Okay.
But I mean, he's a type of player that adjusts and can make that type of play from shift to shift.
So there was another breakaway too that I'm drawing a blank in regards to who it was. I want to say it was Konechny, but I'm not positive. The one that Malkin was draped on his back and just slashing the ever-loving hell out of him.
Yeah, yep. And that was
anybody.
Third, right?
I mean, dumb question, right? Like anybody else just completely and utterly shocked nothing was called there?
I think it was in context. If I'm remembering correctly, we in our zone, we ended up like with a trip or something that they didn't call. And I think I think it was a little bit of an eye for an eye kind of thing, but I was looking at that as well. And I do think it was Konechny who was flying last night. Like, God damn, is he quick?
Well, Forrester sprung that breakaway, and that was a great play by him, getting that puck, cutting off a passing lane and hitting him.
Let's talk about Forrester for a second. I know we didn't really have this on the agenda, but like, all right, his shot last night was great, and then he had a great shootout goal last Saturday or last Friday against the Islanders.
Yep.
I just feel like he's playing with Couturier and what's his name? Jesus Christ, we just talking about him. No, he's playing with Couturier and Konechny.
Sorry,
I'm getting old. And I think you're just starting to see the young confidence starting to grow a little more, and he's making plays, to spring the Tippett goal breakaway. Like, Tippett recognized it was a block shot, and Forster just flipped it into his direction. And like that's what they're doing. They're going for the quick strike. And it's great to see that work. So I just feel like he's becoming more and more noticeable in a much more positive way. And I know the knock has been like he hasn't scored a lot of goals. Okay, the kid's got 4 goals in the season, 3 goals, something like that. If you count the breakaway or you count the shootout goal. So I don't know. I'm continuing to like the progression that I'm seeing with him.
It all comes down to confidence for him too, I think, because the more you score, the more points you put up, assists, goals, whatever it might be, and ice time too. You're going to get more comfortable. You're going to get more confident, and that all comes together. So, like, I'm not expecting the guy to be a world beater right out of the gates, but like you're starting to see him, like you said, progress and get better and better as the season goes on, to the point where at the end of the season, we might see what we truly have in this guy. Like, I'm not saying top peak potential, but like really starting to show you, like, okay, this is what he's going to be, and this is how good he's going to be.
Yeah, the consistency is what we're looking for. And I mean, just based off of his goal last night, like that's the shot that we've all been just waiting for him to just to click on. Honestly, like he's been making the shots, he's just been missing wide and high. And sorry, I should have said high and wide. Shameless plug. But I mean, the potential is there, and he's making the right plays night in, night out, every shift. Like he's making the small little plays, the blocks, the hits, the getting in someone's way. And I don't know if you guys listened to Torrance's presser last night, but like he talked about it. Like Forster is that guy that fits this mold of where this team is supposed to be and where it's going for the future. Like he is a front office perfect match right now because he's homegrown and we're developing him and he's doing well. And John and I have talked about this as well. Like, once he starts scoring, they're just on a come. And we're starting to see that. It's coming more naturally to him. He's adjusting. He's playing with the same players.
What did Tort say? It was a ballsy win.
We got balls.
We got balls.
We got balls. And all I ever thought of was
Torts.
Pedro Serrano from Major League. Just
you have no marbles.
You have no marbles. So talking about marbles here. Let's break down a sequence here real quick. And I mean, we don't have video that we're going to go off of, but I'm sure you guys can envision what happened here because I tweeted one out. It was a play in front of the net where Couturier was right in front of Jari, being contested, looking for the rebound, and all of a sudden you see Letang come in and just cross-check him. Looked like high up on his back. I could be wrong in that.
Just destroyed him.
Just leveled him. Straight cross-check, followed through, and then whoever the hell the other guy was just was seen holding the guy down. Like, and typically we don't break these types of plays down on the show because it's just like, whatever. But like, let's be honest, it's the Penguins. I hate them. No one likes them here. Just let's talk a little bit about our disdain for Chris Letang.
Can't stand him. Can't stand him.
There's a video that came out from last night's game where he gets his dumb face smashed into the corner.
Was that Farabee, I think?
Yeah, it was Farabee hitting him. And it was just the best. I can just watch it on repeat all the time. And Time Ice Skates tweeted out and a couple other people as well. So I'm giving credit to where it's due, but it's just great just to see Letang's face just smush up against the corner boards. And you know
who originally tweeted it out?
Oh geez, who?
Who's your favorite
I got a lot of favorites, let's be honest.
Anyway, sorry.
But no, I just love seeing that. And you knew after that Letang was going to pull his stupid whiny crap and do something along those lines of just destroying Couturier right in front of the net.
Ever since he pulled Timonen and gave Timonen his only fight ever in the NHL,
playoffs.
Yeah, in the playoffs of all times. Like, I have zero respect for something like that. That is just gutless. Like, that's just ridiculous, man. Pulling a guy like Chemo Timonen into a fight. Like, come on.
Right. Yeah.
He's the nicest guy ever.
Like, does he have skill? Sure. But he's just, and I think it really comes out in, Flyers games because of the rival. Like, he's just kind of a shithead. Like, he's a scumbag. And, you saw, you like maybe give him the benefit of the doubt, but like, Couturier missing 18 months with neck surgery and you're sitting there bashing the back of his neck. Like, come on. Now, on the flip side, I'm hoping that the team didn't see it happen because otherwise, like, man, where's the reaction? Like, you need to Tito Santana flying forearm somebody as they come in there. The one thing that did go under the radar that wasn't talked about very much is Risto smash on Crosby. I want to say it was at the end of the period or something. It was like right at a whistle, and Risto went full Risto smash on him. And it was good. Nice.
I saw Crosby. There was one of the goals. I think it was the second goal. Crosby gave Cam York a shove in front of their own net. I'm like, come on, Cam. Like, take a shot there, buddy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you got to think it's in the back of their mind, too. Like, there's another game to be played. There's some fireworks that'll happen, I'm sure. And it'll be in Philly, so you know damn well that crowd is going to get behind them.
No,
yeah. I go ahead, Ogie.
Sorry, I love this idea of these home and homes, especially with in division games, because it just brings fireworks back. I remember like maybe 10 years ago it was where we had 5 or 6 games against divisional teams, right? Like I kind of
was 6 games against divisional teams. Like it was
right.
It was great.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah,
And then they did that during the pandemic, and not so hot.
Yeah, well, but I mean, I think they should go back to that because it just creates storylines throughout the season. Like it's fun to watch, and even for playoffs, if you do end up making it there and you have to play that team, you remember the things that happened back in October, November, December that led you there against these teams.
Right.
So, like last night, Couturier getting destroyed in front of the net. Like someone saw that video last night today, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna do that to Couturier? Here we go!" Like, and that's just the style of Flyers Penguins. Like,
I'm hoping the odds fourth line saw that. And it's just
what are the odds that they're the ones that start the game Monday night?
Most likely,
our fourth line?
Yeah, they start like 90% of the games.
Yeah,
or periods. Honestly,
it's true. That is true. That'd be a fun one to watch, though. I'm very interested to see the line that Tortorella rolls out for the first face-off.
I do like your point about the home and homes though, because we had the Buffalo one earlier this season, and then I don't think it was an actual home and home, but we had like 2 games within 5 days against the Islanders too, which
which were both in New York.
Right, we're both in New York, and then we had this one, and then that's basically it for the year. I do love the idea, especially because of how the Metro is set up, and the furthest teams away are what,
like
Carolina and Boston. Like, everybody else is Columbus, I guess too. But
Boston's in the Atlantic.
Yeah, Boston's in Atlantic.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So so what is Columbus and Carolina are the farthest ones away?
Pretty much.
Columbus and yeah, I'd say probably.
Which is a super obtainable quick turnaround.
Yeah, still convenient.
Right. Like everything else is literally a SEPTA ride away from
right. No, I mean it's interesting. Like we talked about here earlier, like in the first couple minutes of the show, the rivalry being reprised. Basically, 2 teams, different trajectories at this point. Now we're meeting in the middle, which is awesome because it creates these fireworks. But more importantly, we talked about it last week. I'll say that because Sam Ersson has been playing fantastic these last couple weeks. And we saw him, I won't say he was mediocre, but like throughout the game, he was leaving me wanting a little bit more. However, when you get to overtime and then obviously subsequently the shootout, it's like a switch just flipped. And he looked out of his mind when it came to the one stop he had on Letang. Looked a little slow getting from post to post, but I mean, Letang looked like he also flubbed that shot. Ersson got over, kicked it away, whatever.
Right.
But the shootout, and specifically the one he stopped on Crosby where he's just snapped it right out of the air and then just nonchalantly threw it back out. I was like, that's it. That is it.
That's some confidence right there.
That's swagger.
Right. Yeah.
That is swagger.
I mean, I think it's the overall context of the Flyers shootout, which what was it, 2006? Was that the first year of the shootout? Like somewhere around there. And
right after the lockout, I think,
we are off the top of my head 58 and 97 in shootouts all time.
Off the top of your head.
Off the top of your head, you piece of crap.
You were hoping none of us would catch that.
I just look up. I just
according to my calculations,
he just went through his Rolodex in his mind real quick.
So we're 58 and 97 all time in the shootout, which is I literally didn't look this up, but I'm betting it's the worst in the NHL.
At least one of them.
Yeah, and we are just not used to the success that a shootout brings. And I mean, like, still to this day, I mean, it's like we have PTSD. Like, you go into a shootout, you're like, okay, please don't beat me. I'm okay. I'm okay. And it's baffling just to see Ersson actually, and it's not like we're netting 3 of these things. It's a goalie duel, and Ersson's actually, in the last 2 he's been in, hell yeah, take those. Those 2.
He's 2.
That's 2 points. That's 2 points that we weren't getting, and if you do all of the tie, last year I think we had like 12 ties or something. Like all right, you flip half of those, and all of a sudden, like, there's points. So
considering what we came from goalie wise, and going from Steve Mason, who wasn't great in the shootout by any means, Michael Neuwirth, Brian Elliott, and this is just recently, probably within the last 10 years. Like, it has been the exact opposite. We'll call it that. Like even Hart, like he has his struggles in the shootout, but there are times where he's
lights out
just
as well,
dialed in. And Urson, though, man, I'll tell you what, I know you can do it, but like maybe just whoever starts the game, it doesn't matter. Put Urson in for the shootout if you get there.
Right.
I was
Like
thinking,
Mighty
that,
Ducks
is that a
style.
possibility?
Right.
Is that a possibility? Like, can you just do that?
I believe so.
I think so, but I think you can't switch back though. It's like
Right.
you know, I don't think you
unless
can,
the goaltender gets hurt or something like that.
right,
Yeah.
right. But
Right.
yeah, you literally go with whatever Alice the cat from Mighty Ducks 2.
Yeah,
against,
there you go.
Gunnar
Julie
Stahl.
the cat.
Julie the cat. Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean, might not be a bad idea.
No, I'll say, I mean, you know, where and Urson's, you know, you saw him struggle earlier in the season. Now, like, look, I'm not saying we have a goalie controversy in any way, shape, or form. Carter Hart is our number one, but if you can get quality starts every 2, 3, 4 games, whatever it may be, and not just on back-to-backs and things like that, like all of a sudden, like you're gonna have a Carter Hart who isn't straining muscles in February and going out. Like, you know, I just think
For multiple
it's more
games,
reliable, and the team is also, hey, we have this guy here as well who can carry the load even if Carter's not in. Now flipping it to the shootout with Carter, I think one of the reasons why Carter struggles a little bit on the shootout is his strength is like his positional play and tracking plays, not necessarily like the one-on-one mono. And I do think that like maybe just goalies coming up in this day and age, and Hart is still young, so maybe this is just a mute point, but like maybe there's just so much more of an emphasis on the one-on-one shootout, like as they're coming up, you know, through the ranks, and you know, from mites on up. So they're just getting more and more used to it. I don't know, just a theory, but it used to just be like, all right, once in a while you'd face a penalty shot, and now it's just like, oh, this 2010 style, this will determine whether or not you get into the playoffs. Brian,
Right. Love replaying that in my mind.
Galvanized,
that was beautiful. Yeah, no, it was. It's obviously encouraging. Like it's a very small part of the game. However, having something in that part of the game that you don't have to worry about, not bad, right?
Yeah. No,
I'll take it.
Again,
absolutely.
Another promising thing about the future. We have a goaltender that can play in the shootouts and win us games there.
Right on.
Back in the day, you used to turn the game off once the shootout. Like,
yeah, back in the day, that was 18 months ago, dude.
Right. Come on.
But Coots really taken the what was it, the tush tuck for a walk here.
That's the second time. Second time he's tried that move, and I'll tell you what, until someone can stop it, keep doing it.
Right. Yeah,
He's tried it 3 times. It's worked twice. It's worked twice. Yeah.
One in the
it didn't work.
Yeah.
Right, but most recently, the last 2 attempts he's made, correct? It was the first attempt, or was it one?
He made the first one. He had the penalty shot, which he made, and then he pulled it against the Islanders, and then did it against you.
So every other
didn't
one
work against the Islanders, but
he'll miss the next one. Try it again. He'll make that one.
Right.
Honestly,
now he has a book on it. He needs to add another element to it. Another
exactly. Yes.
Yeah,
there needs to be like
out.
Go far side. Like if you're gonna come in back skate, but then keep the puck far side, they're gonna think you're going backhand or forehand, whatever it is. Keep it on the far side and chip it past them.
Right.
I think it'd be a brilliant move.
I love that now we have a player in the shootout that like has a stapled move now. Like we used to have Giroux for the longest time that would do that weird pull up and slip it over the pad.
See,
and now with Coots, like I'm like, oh, this is a different staple, and we can actually score on that instead of just sending somebody out there for no reason.
It was when he pulled the Datsuk where against Toronto, where he was basically behind the goal line and lifted it up over. And I remember that because I'm thinking to myself, like every time I'd see him in a shootout after that, I'm like, do that move. Like it worked. Like people aren't going to be like, oh my God, he's going to do that every single time. No, because he's got an arsenal of moves. But like the only other person I think that I can think of that had some type of go-to, well, 2, Lawton, you know, he'd go 5-hole every single time, backhand typically, but then Simmons. Like there was a stretch where we had a bunch of shootouts, and Simmons was like the real quick puck handling in tight, and then would just I think it was
Rocket a shot.
Not even. It was just a real quick chip, you know.
So,
I mean, I want to say
the one shootout I remember. I mean, it must have gone 6 or 7 rounds, and Drew came in and just wound up and blasted a slapper, like
right in the hash marks. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That was what 2 or 3 years ago too.
He pulled like the Chell move and just like held this stick for forever.
Right.
Get power. I am interested to see. I mean, last night we saw Couturier, Konechny, and who was the third? Forster.
Yeah.
Because Forster was seen talking to Hart. Hart
Right.
trains with Jari in the offseason. So, and Jim Jackson, friend of the show, actually mentioned it. He's like, yeah, Hart trains with Jari. I'm sure Forster's picking his brain about what to do, and didn't work.
I am interested to see what happens when Brink gets back in on the shootout front too, because that one attempt, because you mentioned that Giroux kind of Datsuk type goal, that reminded me a little bit of what Brink did in Boston during the preseason during that shootout. That was the same kind of thing. You're like, whoa, where did that come from? So
let's see more of it. Well, less shootouts, but more success.
Maybe some regulations.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, it's entertaining hockey. I'll say that. What else can we ask for at this point? A win.
Right. Maybe like a 10-minute 3-on-3. That'd be kind of nice. But
not 28 seconds.
Hold on. Can we talk about that for a second?
Game?
How do we still suck on 3-on-3s so badly?
Hey, at least
because
we're
we
not
switched back
employing
from the
2
two
defensemen.
Yeah, that's true.
We're not employing 2 defensemen and a forward for no reason.
Well, the fact that
we can't get the fact that it's a possession game. We come down and it's like, oh, let's just take a shot.
Let's take a shot and just give it over. Yeah.
Well, it's all a game of odd man rushes, because as soon as you take that shot, you're out of position, and you've got 3 guys going the other way. It's 3-on-2, it's 3-on-1, 2-on-1. It doesn't matter. So you're absolutely right. It is 100% a possession game, and you saw it with the Jersey game. Quintessential. Just what was it? 27 or 32 seconds, something like that.
28 seconds in.
28 seconds in, Jersey scores, and you don't want to know why? They had a goddamn odd man rush because Flyers didn't care. They just whatever. Same thing though with the Pens. Like you see, because it is a fast 5 minutes. It is a very fast 5 minutes. But there's so many scoring chances in those 5 minutes that you're just like, personally, and I'm sure you guys, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure you're much the same. I'm on the edge of my seat all those 5 minutes, waiting. Like something's going to happen. The Letang shot that he had the one-timer opportunity, I'm thinking, oh God, that's it. But he ended up looking like he flubbed it. Urson made the save, and then Flyers go the other way.
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
the Flyers are just terrible at transition in the overtime as well.
And you saw it too on. There was a minute or so last night in regulation where it was 4-on-4, and the Flyers can't flip a switch, understanding that we're not 5-on-5, or we're not.
There's more space.
It's a different game like this, and they certainly are having a time positioning that into the 3-on-3 as well. It's like they're still using 5-on-5 methodology for 3-on-3 play, and it just doesn't make sense. And so
the one thing I noticed too, back to the whole possession thing, I understand being a possession game when it comes to 3-on-3 overtime, but it almost looks like they're overthinking every zone entry, because I can't tell you how many times I saw someone peel back, exit the zone, or not even enter the zone. And it's like, okay, one guy switches off, another guy comes on, whatever. You might need a line change. I get that. Although I watched Morgan Frost exit when they had possession in the offensive zone. Don't understand why there. Maybe I'm just being overly critical, but
I was really hoping we would not speak that name this episode.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't mind his game last night. I know we had the tough penalty, but I didn't mind. I didn't mind his game.
There was a shift of his I was impressed.
Just tired of talking about him. That's all.
He hit. Who did he hit in the corner? I can't remember. He hit somebody. Puck went the other way. He turned around and went to shove that guy too. And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, let's see more of that. Let's get
but you'll see that in another 10 games.
Right.
I want to be hopeful. I do. But yeah, the overtime never, I feel like, is kind to us. So I'm hoping that we can end some games in regulation and skip the whole overtime period.
100%.
At least we get the first come from behind win. That's exciting.
True. Yeah. That was the first game that we've won after letting up the first goal.
First goal. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that curse is broken, we can move forward.
We can make the playoffs.
Right. Speaking of moving forward, this upcoming week, obviously, we got the Pens Monday night, Coyotes Thursday, Avalanche on Saturday. They're on the West Coast, if you want to call it that, Arizona and Colorado. Take my time.
I said Central Time, not
Central Time. Oh, I'll take my goddamn time. But 3 games. What are we thinking, guys?
So we got Pens, Coyotes, and Avalanche. I'm going 2-0-1. Feeling saucy. And I think our one loss or our one overtime loss is going to be to Arizona because we always end up overlooking that damn team.
Yeah.
It is
even in a college stadium.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Hoagie? What's your guess?
We're gonna do another repeat. 1-1-1.
Interesting.
Don't know who.
Mediocre prediction I've ever heard.
Yep.
I'm going 1-2-0.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan of it. I want them to go 3-0-0.
God, you are a dark, dark soul, Darish.
Should I go 0-3-0? I mean, what do you want me to do here?
John's not here.
All right. So
he'd have said the same thing.
Right.
To conclude, before we jump off, though, what's the bet you guys are going to make for the Dallas Eagles game next week?
Damn it.
What are we wagering?
I
don't know yet. Because, I mean, it's not like I can just be like, yeah, I'll wear an Eagles jersey because I don't have an Eagles jersey, and there's no way Hoagie's going to be able to get me one. What about...
Maybe we should leave it out to the listeners/followers. Put it out.
Put a poll out there.
We'll put a poll out, yeah. We'll put two separate polls. One poll is going to be what I have to do if the Eagles win. And then the poll that you will respond to would be the one if Cowboys win. So let's make it interesting. You tweet that one out. You tweet the one in terms of my consequences. I'll tweet the one in terms of yours. Do you trust me?
No.
You don't?
No, of course not.
It's gonna be like Hoagie has to grow a Hitler mustache and wear it for the next 6 months.
No, I got a couple ideas in terms of like what I would have to do, but like I'm also not gonna give Hoagie any ammo here.
It should just be a fair playing field here, but all right.
I am so glad that I stirred this pot. This is great.
Yeah, right. Where's John for this one? He's an Eagles fan too.
I'm glad he's not on here. But let's talk about this off air. We'll send out the tweet here sometime this week.
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, that's it for us then. Check out our affiliates before we go. The guys over at Flyers High and Wide, they're on X at Flyers HW. Same goes for our buddies over at the 5 Minute Major podcast. They're on X at 5 Min Major Pod. And that's it for us this week. As always, take care, folks, and we'll see you next week.
Bye now.
Adios.